secondary school kids typically now are having the reading age of primary school kids. Time is money, so spend yours listening to me talk about things that are important to me and my people.
Time is money.
Hello and welcome to Maya's Minutes. This is a minisode where I just give you a little snapshot into the ramblings of my life. But the premise of this podcast is different series with an expert guest focusing on one overarching topic. So I would highly recommend pausing this and finding a series that you're really into, just so you get a bit of a feel of me and who I am. Equally, there are no rules, and if you'd rather take your information in small bursts, then these minisodes might be better for you. I don't know. As per usual, thank you so much to those who have subscribed, who have listened, who have reviewed and who have rated. It really does mean the world. And I had a real life fruition of that today because I met with a friend. It's a weekend and I've been super busy, and normally I would have factored in time on Saturday / early morning Sunday to have recorded the podcast for it to go out Monday, tomorrow. But this weekend, I had too much on. And I was even thinking to myself, do you know what? Like, I see my numbers, and the few people that listen to this regularly are not going to mind if I push the episode by a day / don't even record it this week. And then I met with my friend who is just an angel in human form. She actually brought up the podcast and said she'd listened to the most recent minisode and she really loved it and the topic was great and everything was wonderful. And it just gave me the encouragement I needed to record today, edit and share. So when I say the encouragement through subscriptions, shares, reshares and reviews mean a lot, that is what I mean. It is the motivation to actually carry on in a world that doesn't give you much back. Anyway, let's get into the episode. So, I am an avid reader. If you follow me on socials, you know this already. I have a Goodreads account as well, which I will link in this episode. And it really irks me when I speak to people. We're talking about books and then some people will just completely disengage from the conversation. They'll be like, oh, books, yeah, no, I don't really read. Oh, no, I'm just not good at reading. And it's not that I'm in a judgy way like, oh, what's wrong with them? Because I know that the majority of people who don't read now as adults is because it was ruined for them either in school or before. And I also know that like when you're in school, if that's the first time you're starting to read, if no one's sat with you before and read to you and normalised that, then reading in school can be really daunting because you have to like read out loud in front of people. And if you're not the strongest reader, the people who are stronger readers are going to obviously shine and you're going to feel away. So it can just put you off it for life, which is so ironic because you're supposed to fall in love with reading in the learning years. So I get it. But it does really break my heart because there's just so much to be learnt from books. And I've been in a real deep novel hole recently where I'm typically a non-fiction reader and I really enjoy reading particularly about like different historical events but told in like a really palatable way. Or I love an autobiography or just like an informational on some kind of topic book that's easy to read. Even if it's hard to read, I'll still make the effort. But I just don't really get into novels too tough because I'm like, oh, what's the need? But honestly, there are some novels which have changed my life. And the ones that I've been reading recently probably fall into that category. There's nothing better than having a book that's so gripping you forget about TV. Like, what is TV? This is better. You're straining your hand trying to hold it open as you eat and read at the same time. Like, your eyes are squinting because you should have a light on, but it's late and you can't be bothered to go and put the light on. So you're reading with minimal light, which is very bad for your eyes, but you just can't put this book down. That is the kind of level a book can be for you, and just so many people miss out on that, and it makes me so sad. And in a world where we are so connected all the time to technology and we are on screens all the time, it's so good to actually look at paper and words on paper. And that's another thing people lose. So I was thinking about this just in my head, and I was having like really in-depth discussions with a friend, the same friend that complimented me on the podcast. I was having a conversation in depth all about reading and books. And after that conversation, I was thinking like, this is something I need to talk about. And I wanted to do a little bit of research to see if I'm right in my thoughts or if that's just like my experience and not actually the case. So I Googled a bit and found out if we're reading more or less in 2024, because on the one hand, the quality of the books now and the representation in books that you can get is, in my opinion, more than there has ever been in history. But we are also addicted to screens. So what does it matter that there's just so much more literary genius around? I just think that we're just missing out on both ends. So I researched it, and it turns out that in 2024 we are reading less than we have been, and it's having a 4.4% decrease year on year. And the result of that is secondary school kids typically now are having the reading age of primary school kids. And that's really sad. And the thing is, I see as adults how it affects us, our attention spans, our ability to take in information, even to the point of like text messages. When you WhatsApp your friend, and if you say, right, I'm wearing a blue jacket and I'm next to the letterbox, but not the first letterbox, the second letterbox, and then they go to the first letterbox and they're like, where are you? Can't see you. And you're like, I literally said, I'm not by the first, I'm by the second. But I do attribute some of the fact that we are just not as good at reading anymore to the fact that we don't read anymore. And like everything, and like I say in everything I live, everything is a muscle. You need to train it. You're not just going to get good at reading overnight. And I'm not just going to be preaching. I'm going to give you some tips. I did a video about this on TikTok as well, so I will probably repost that now that it's relevant again. Top tips on how to get into reading. Number 1, start with an autobiography. Someone you like, because you reading about their life is going to naturally be a incentive. You learning about what makes them tick is going to do something for you. So after you read a meaty autobiography, you can already tick off that you've read a book, and you're like, oh, okay. And you also know more about this person. So it's just a win-win. And usually autobiographies are written by people who aren't actually authors. So therefore the writing is just going to be very easy. It's not going to be like difficult and cryptic. It's going to be more often not even written by them because they are too busy, but someone sat there, got the gist of it and made it easy to read. And I just think that's a great place to start. The next place to start is a good novel. Novels are always going to be easier to read than anything else, and they are fun and interesting and exciting. And then the final thing is find the niche that you love reading about. So for me, I know I love reading, much like watching, I love reading about real events, but the novel version. So the example I always use is a book called Against the Loveless World, and that is a novel all about the Israel-Palestine conflict. And I read this about 4 years ago, and that was the most informative account of what's happened in previous generations and the history of the Israel-Palestine conflict than I've ever had from any news clip, from any film, from any conversation. That's what did it for me. And it wasn't that the information in there was particularly different, but it was the way that it was being told. It was a story. And I think like as humans, we probably connect more to story than we do like boring facts. So that's probably a part to play in it as well. But I'm just that is my sweet spot. That's my most preferred type of reading. A novel based on true events that is relatable. That's like chef's kiss for me. So yeah, find what's yours. And then when you've got that, you'll be like, okay, and then you can start applying that. And then after you've mastered that and you're like really comfortable there, then you'll have the confidence to now step out and go and read something that's a little bit not really your kind of speed, but be like, do you know what? I'm going to give it a go, because I remember when I didn't read anything, and now I read all of these books. So because I got them in the bag, I'll be able to read some harder ones. And I really feel like it makes all the difference, because having a good book to just switch off to, especially at night, and when in an age as well where we need our sleep and we aren't getting half as much sleep as we should because our brains are so overstimulated and wired, you need to get your sleep hygiene up, and reading a book before bed is a really, really good way to do that. So yeah, if this is the first time you're listening to Maya's Minutes, you're thinking, how has this person managed to talk for 12 minutes about reading? But that is just what I do here. So I don't know what to tell you. There will be more of this. I'm going to leave you with that sentiment. It's called a minisode for a reason, because I like to keep it mini. But as I said at the beginning, if you like the longer form, you'll prefer the series. Go and check the series out, and I do really think there is something for everyone. So please don't limit yourself to these minisodes. These are just to tide you over before we get to the main meaty series, which are 10 out of 10 as well, if I say so myself. As per, please get in touch with me, message me, follow me, get talking online. Let's build the community of Maya's Minutes, which I'm so desperate to do, because I think it's necessary. We need it. We need more communities and conversations that incite thought leadership, that are real stuff. Have a wonderful week. Maybe pick up a book or not. And I will see you next week.